So cloud and security. We are going to talk and touch upon on these two areas today. The security is becoming a challenge, right? And why? Any guesses why this is happening? What is there in cloud which was not there in traditional data center? That we have so many security challenges.
Some reason maybe it's because we can create the resource too easy. So it's easy to create bunch of them, setting up more complicated.
Right, he's correct. So with the traditional data center, the problem was you have to wait for 3 months, sometime 2 months, or for some time to procure a server, then set it up in the data center and all that. So it was not that easy. Now with this cloud, I can spawn 1,000 servers just with a command, just in a click, right? So that has created a lot of security challenges, and T-Mobile, when we started our cloud journey, we knew that this is coming because the scale at which we operate usually, and we never wanted to stop somebody creating a server because we always support agility and everything, right? So we don't want people to say, okay, hey, don't create a machine. Ask, take 10 approvals prior to creating a machine. So we wanted to have that agility, as well as we wanted to make sure that people are not denting holes in our security. So that is where we thought of creating a system. Back in 2016, we call that system as ASGC, which is Automated Cloud Security and Governance. And that has evolved to PackBot now. So this is where T-Mobile's cloud journey started. 2014, maybe go to cloud, just hit a button, try to create a VM, usually where everybody starts on cloud, and do a manual audit, have some security team who is doing manual audits on those, and then do the manual remediations also. Then we evolved, and we went to the next level, where it was we started having custom scripts. We started writing scripts which were doing all those tasks in a scripted way. In 2016 and 17 timeframe, we got an idea. Why not to build a system which have injectable rules, where you can continuously check the compliance of your cloud, and report the violations, and maybe auto fix them, because it's all about code now. So that name Pacman is intentional, because at that time it was Pacman only. 2017 it was Pacman, and then we recently, when we open sourced it, because we were not able to use that name because of legal issues, we just chose to have PackBot. Then we started developing a system called Pacman, and now we are in a state that where with PackBot we are so secure that you cannot just open a S3 bucket or any resource in our cloud and keep it open for long. I mean, PackBot will detect it, send an alert. If you're not fixing it, it will fix it for you by itself. So today, that is the state of T-Mobile Cloud where we are in. So this is what the PackBot is. What is a policy? I mean, you would have seen policies, right? It's a document usually. Usually it's a document which is written somewhere and probably read once a year to make sure that, okay, this thing is compliant, this is not. So all manual. What we did is some of our leaders, one of them is Nick, we thought that why not to convert that policy to code? Why somebody should go and read that policy once a year? I mean, do some tick, and okay, now we are compliant, next day you are not probably. So now what we thought, we started converting all those policies into rules. And before that, what we did is we developed a system so that the conversion of policy into code can be federated. So it's not that only one developer, or we can, we have a team of 10 people. 10 people can write those policies as a code in any language, and then they can inject that into the system. So how Pacman works is you define the policy in code and just pick it out of the document. you inject that policy into the system, Packbot, which is then continuously gauging your compliance. So for instance, what Pacman is doing for let's say, so anybody who knows what is EC2, S3, or
yep.
Okay, so S3 for example, right? Simplest example. So S3 is a storage service from AWS, and it's very easy to just keep it open to internet, right? It's a bucket, S3 bucket, correct? You can store your objects. It's object storage. So it's very easy to keep data in that bucket, but it's equally easy to expose that to internet, to everybody. Today also, if you search S3, there will be thousands of buckets which you can find in Google, the hyperlinks to them open to internet, and you can read all that data. So a simplest example is one of the policy. What that policy is doing is checking every hour. It is checking that what all S3 objects we have, and are they open to internet. And there are many internal checks which we have built as a code, and then there are brute force also. Our code is going outside internet and trying to see if I'm able to access those objects from outside. So, and then if it found that there is a violation on any problem in there, it is going to report that as a violation. So that is assess, report, and then remediate. So the third important piece is, so once it reports that issue as a violation, there is no way in the system to go and say, okay, I have closed this issue. So there's no ticketing. The way you close an issue in Packbot is go and fix it. Either you go and fix it, or Packbot will fix it. So there is no manual open a ticket, close a ticket. So you go, fix the issue, Packbot will reassess it and close the issue by itself. So there is no manual intervention in closing an issue or something like that. So this is the philosophy of Pacman: assess, report, remediate, and it's like continuous. So because Pacman is continuously assessing your infrastructure, it's continuous. It's assessing, it's reporting, it's remediating, assessing, reporting, and remediating. Any questions in this slide?
So with the remediation, does it immediately fixes your problem, or just gives you a prompt?
So it can be configured to give you a prompt. It can send you a Slack message. It can send you an email. It can, if the problem is severe enough, it can fix it immediately also.
Nice.
So there are configuration parameters which you can tune in to based on your requirements.
So are you bypassing IAM, the group policy? So you bypassing that? You use IAM for policy?
Sure.
So are you bypassing that
in T-Mobile, we don't have a lot of IAM users because we use federated login. However, we do have some service accounts on AWS, the compliance of which is again checked by Packbot. Yeah. You can do a serverless rule. So today, like you guys are already working on some serverless. For example, you can write, we just need a RESTful endpoint to invoke that rule. So you can write your rule in Azure Functions, in AWS Lambda or Google Functions, and configure that endpoint. And the rule engine will make sure that it calls your rule for every asset and make sure that you reply. If you don't reply, it will be flagged in the system. So yeah, so you are free to choose your rule language, Go, Python, whatever you serverless supports, you are free to choose. Okay, this is a bit more onto the system, how the system works. As the first point I have already kind of covered, policy or compliance rules. So they are written as code with readable metadata. Resources are auto discovered. So we have a proper ETL. Today the problem of cloud security is also a problem of big data. There is a lot of data about infrastructure. There is a lot of events like we in T-Mobile, we process around 10 million events every day just from the cloud, right? So Packbot, we process 10 million events every day. And that's a normal day. I mean, it's not that something is getting some iPhone is coming or something. That's a normal day when we process 10 million events. So for us, this is a problem of big data also, which we have solved. So continuously we have ETL processes which are going to all the cloud, which are collating the data from 10 other subsystems to all this. Resources are auto discovered. That means you need not to tell Packbot that, okay, I have created a resource in cloud. It will go and find out, right? So if you are doing something, it's auto discovered. Policy violations is logged to violation tracker. So yeah, so as soon as it discovered that there is a problem, like S3 bucket example I took, it is going to log that up. Resource owners are notified and remediation is provided, like you said. So there is a provision to configure that alerting. You can configure that if you created a bucket, you'll get a notification that you have done something wrong. Please fix it. Otherwise, we'll fix it. So yeah, next point is violation may be remediated automatically or manually based on compliance complexity of the remediation. As I said, violations are automatically closed when the problem is fixed. This is the last point I made. So you need not to go in the system and close the ticket. It will get closed automatically if you fix your resource.